Well, good afternoon. Happy Friday. Happy almost fall break. It's a beautiful snowy day here. Looking out the window, nice and snowy. This is Principal Annalie McBee, principal at Park Lane Elementary School, and looking forward to sharing my 2019-2020 strategic response with you this afternoon. Wanted to kick off my presentation today with showcasing our new logo here at Park Lane. Worked with the community early during the summer, got to interview some students, community members, and also current and former staff to help design this new logo. And then also to bring forward our new vision statement, so empowering brilliant and diverse minds through dynamic learning. We're really excited about this logo and how it captures just the dynamic movement we're making this year within the organization. So I wanted to share with you some of the overarching data that is presenting itself here at Park Lane. Starting with the school performance framework, as many of you already know, we're in priority improvement, and we are in year 2 of this status. We have been identified as a core school, and we are 0.8% away from turnaround status as we speak today. Some of the strengths that emerged from our data is that we showed some growth in math, specifically around our English language learners and our free and reduced population. And again, showing some more growth for math and English language proficiency. But again, presented with huge concerns and challenges for growth, as well all of achievement categories are all sitting in the do not meet status currently. When we look at our CMAS data, we are doing exactly the opposite of the charge we've been presented with by Andre, which is that we're showing year-over-year decline instead of year-over-year increases. At the top, you can see that the percentage of students who do not meet are increasing year after year, with last year having a 7% increase of students who do not meet. And at the bottom, you can see that the percentage of students who met and exceeded in both English language arts and in math has also decreased, and last year it decreased by 5%. When I break down the data even further, I look at that growth data, hoping that to see some growth within that middle range. But again, kind of seeing the same pattern of declining growth data for both English language arts and math. And it's deeply concerning to me that in 2008, we had 34 growth median percentile for English language arts. As I dived further into the data, some of our students had growth median percentiles of 1, and some students had growth median percentiles of 90. And so some of the predictions I have is, are our teachers being strategic with all of our students, or is it more haphazard? We're teaching the lesson and hoping that the students are gaining some of the information at all. In an elementary school, again, you know, we're gifted with the opportunity of teaching our children to learn how to read. Super important to me that when I came into the building, we also looked at what was happening in our younger primary classes, looking at early literacy data and seeing if our students are able to close that gap around significantly below grade level. As you can see from spring 2019, we have a strong gap in our tier 1 instruction. We have large quantities of students who are 2 to 3 years below grade level. Most concerning are if you look at our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, again, numbers in the 78%, 75, and 71%. So just huge, staggering numbers of kids who can't even read. I wanted to, as a new principal, it's always important for me to come in and do some root cause analysis. So not just jumping to conclusions based on looking just at the hard data. I went through a process early this spring. I had the gift of time to come on to campus and interview every single teacher and former staff member on campus in a one-on-one interview to understand some of the challenges they were facing as well as some of the strengths of the school. And then this fall, I was able to verify our findings through root cause analysis with the staff early this fall to make sure we were on point. The results that arised at some of our root cause analysis were number one, our teachers believed that there was a lack of emotional safety to take professional risks and to ask for help. Number two, they believed that there was a lack of consistent expectations and structures for not only for student culture, but also for staff professionalism. And number three, that they self-identified that they had a lack of understanding of the true demands of the academic standards. So this leads us to our 90-day plan. We're about, as I shared with my instructional leadership team, about 30 days away from completing this first 90-day plan, and wanted to share some of our big major improvement strategies and then some of the course corrections we're making. So number one, our major improvement strategy is around culture. They spoke very clearly about not feeling safe. So our overarching goal is to establish emotional safety across our community. We're looking to have our staff feel more emotionally safe by demonstrating stronger favorable responses to not only the TEL survey, but also to internal staff culture surveys that are being conducted several times throughout the year. We're also looking to build more emotional safety for our students by having our teachers have clearer and stronger accountability to communicate that with our children about the high expectations we have for them. And we're doing this through an implementation of no-nonsense nurture across the building. Our second major improvement strategy is data-driven instruction. Again, our overarching goals are to ensure our teachers really are driving home the standards every given day, every given minute of the day. We're asking our staff to participate in PLCs and DDI structures this year. And our concrete data that we're looking for is that we can see adjustments within their lesson plans to show that they are meeting the needs of our students based on what student work is showing. We're asking also that our staff implement standards-based differentiated instruction by evidence of small group instruction. And some of this work came out of just the transparency that our vulnerable and returning staff shared with us about there being lacking structures from last year and inconsistency in expectations for them. And our last major improvement strategy is around observation and feedback. One of the things that I felt was really important for our staff this year is that their SLOs were aligned with my SLO and aligned with Andre, your charge. So 100% of our teachers have written SLOs that are in alignment with the student achievement data for literacy and are addressing gaps and priority standards for literacy. And then we're also really wanting to make sure that our instructional leadership team is aligned. So our principal, assistant principal, and a teaching partner are aligned with each other during our coaching and observation feedback, and that we're leveraging our professional development accordingly. One of the other requests you had for us during the strategic response was to speak a little bit about our human resource challenges that we're facing currently, and then wanting to share with you about some course corrections and needs that we might have within the building. So you can see on the left-hand side our human resource summary. As many of you know, I'm new to the role, I'm new to APS. I have an assistant principal who's also new to the role and new to Aurora Public Schools. I have a teaching partner who's identified that she has some growth areas. We currently do not have a cross-categorical teacher. We have onboarded a social worker, but she's frequently out of the building at least 2 or 3 times a week for training. And then when you look at the overall makeup of our school, 50% of our K through 5th grade staff has turned over from last year to this year, and 40% of our entire staff has turned over this year. So based on this human resource summary, some of the course corrections that I've really had to embrace is shifting my style of leadership to stronger coaching with my assistant principal and teaching partner, being really hands-on with them and having a slower gradual release model to distribute leadership. We've also had to really narrow our focus around culture and literacy, just because there are so many structures being rolled out simultaneously. And my staff has articulated that the learning curve is fairly steep for all of them. And that's including me. I put that in there. So, we have some specific requests and hope that these will be things that you guys can really help us with. I was able to look at the diagnostic review that happened last year, but unfortunately that team of teachers who provided the insight into that diagnostic review are very far and few that are still on campus. So hoping that I can have a newer and quicker, quickly created diagnostic review done here at the school, wanting to really make sure that my culture work is really being strategic and that I'm also meeting the demands of the new staff in case our 90-day plan is not aligned with where the new staff is really needing their support. I'm hoping that our exceptional student service and HR department can really help us with onboarding a special education teacher to support differentiation for that vulnerable population. I'm continuing to reach out to communications to build out our brand, really wanting to make sure we're recruiting children and maintaining the students who are here, but also use it as an opportunity to shape the culture within the building and to share that change that has happened for our students and staff and to build some agency for them. And then some on the ground work and support for our social worker and assistant principal as they start to embrace this work around culture and MTSS work, just really having them get some of that training within the building, not always outside of the building. A week ago, I met with my instructional leadership team to really reflect on where we are at with our 90-day plan observations and implementation. Some of the things that came up and surfaced from that is, again, just this common thread for us that we have a new staff, young staff learning new curriculum, new standards, new building-wide expectations, systems, and structures. And so therefore, they're having a hard time prioritizing what they need to accomplish within the building. Some of the data that arose from looking at our DDI days, as well as just looking at some of our initial observations of teachers' instruction, is that they don't have a basic understanding of strong backwards design plan or strong lesson design. And again, because we have a newer staff here on campus right now, we're lacking internal models of effective classroom pedagogy. So some of the shifts that we're already making just based on our 90-day plan are that our PLCs and PD are really adjusting to prioritize strong co-planning structures for lesson planning, in addition to data analysis. So we had just jumped straight into the data analysis and student work, and we're having to take a step back to make sure they're actually teaching students first so that the data has some valid results for us. We're also asking our staff to be really intentional when they return from fall break to really renorm our students around some of the rituals and routines that we've established. So the specific needs and areas of support that I think would be really thoughtful and really supportive of us in this last month before we close out this 90-day plan and really try to ramp up a stronger 90-day plan that's in alignment to this year-long vision for us, is if we could get some support for our ECE and first grade teachers with some specific coaching of how they align some of the workstation work in literacy with Wonders, so that that time that students are not in front of them, that they're really being grounded in some of that really important early literacy work. That our instructional coach continues to support our teaching partner with unpacking standards and making sure that, again, she has a strong foundation for ECE and Kinder, so that not only are we being responsive to the data, but we're being proactive to prevent the bleeding, year after year, and kind of making sure we're addressing that root cause in the lower grades. I'm looking to find effective classroom models across the district so that I can continue to help leverage some of our teachers within the building. We have some teachers who have been in this building for the last 5-6 years, and they really need a shift in their mental model of what strong instruction looks like, what strong cultures look like, and how to best reach our students across Aurora Public Schools. And so being able to have them go off of campus to see it being done elsewhere, we're hoping that that can help shift their framing to some of these changes that are happening within our building. And then lastly, some of the work in No Nonsense Nurture really is about strong implementation, and we do that by having teachers being coached in real time around high expectations, so continuing to support us with advanced implementation of real-time coaching for NNN. Lastly, really reflecting on some of the things that Andre said to the team yesterday about being vulnerable and recognizing that the principal doesn't have the answer and can't do this work alone. Really wanted to just highlight some of the leadership gaps that we have within our building currently, and some of the work that we're trying to do to course correct our own learning curves here. So as I shared with you, I am a new principal to the district, have had a steep learning curve from day one, and some human resource challenges with hiring so many new teachers this year. So learning a lot. My assistant principal, again, is new to the role and new to the district, and really has embraced the challenge of rebuilding all of the systems within the building, but also just facing, huge disconnect from what was happening formally in the school to where we need to see the school from now and into the future. And then as I've worked with my teacher partner, we've talked about some of the work that we've been able to do, or that I've been able to do with Relay or with UVA or cognitive coaching. She on her own has been able to identify some of the gaps in her own learning, and has surfaced that. And so right now our leadership team is being transparent with our teachers about how these are some of the things that we're also needing to work on. So some of the course corrections we're doing currently is leaning really heavily on our learning community director and fellow principals, our IM specifically, to make sure I really am clear of the district's priorities, deadlines, and what are some of my gaps so I can close those as quickly as possible. And then again, I'm doing a lot more side-by-side coaching with my assistant principal and teaching partner so that we're really calibrated in our work and sending a really clear and consistent message once we walk out of the office. So our specific needs and areas of request for our leadership team currently is being able to provide my assistant principal with an assistant principal mentor, someone in the district that is a strong AP, who really understands how to manage all the different operations that are part of the role of an assistant principal. And then really asking for support from human resources to help facilitate stronger calibration sessions for both myself and for the assistant principal, as we embrace Randa, learn from it, grow from it, and also align it with some of our former training, but also align it with the Aurora Public School framework. Just wanted to, again, to end on a really high note with Aurora Public Schools. It's been such a nice change to come back to Aurora Public Schools. I've felt a ton of support, and looking really forward to continuing to empower my community here. The families have been super receptive to the work we've done this year so far, and I'm looking forward to shifting and being more dynamic in my leadership here through your guidance and feedback and anything that you believe that you think will be fruitful for the vision of the school. So with that, I want to thank you for your time. I believe I'm the last one of the long day of presentations. Just want to open it up for any questions that you might have, any personal feedback that you'd like to offer, or any next steps that you'd like to suggest.
Anna, thank you for your presentation. One of the things that we're doing is, this is not about critiquing your presentation at all. We want to hear from you. We've done that. Now my job is to bring this team, and there'll be more, bring this team back together, make sure that we've heard you regarding the specifics that you need, right? Things that you say you need support in. So we're going to calibrate around that. And then those individuals who are going to be directly supporting you will be reaching out to you to make sure that they are true in what they believe they heard and what the next steps need to be. So both Anthony and Damon will have access to the presentation as well. There was some HR ask, and they will have access so that they can have the appropriate individual or individuals reach out to you in order to make sure that you get the support that you need.
That would be wonderful. Like I said, you can't do this work on your own unless you want to retire really, really early with no pension. And I am very open to all the support. I know initially it was a little overwhelming in the beginning, and now I think we have a pretty good pulse on where the support needs to come from, and looking forward to partnering with all of the different team members of Aurora moving forward.
Great. My focus with this process is to make sure that the next time we come together, you have an opportunity to tell us, did we do exactly what it is that we said we were going to do in support of you, right? Okay. That's what this process is about. It's a continuous feedback loop. You've said what you need. Our job is to respond on those needs and then come back and say, well, how well are we doing? And we'll come back again for the third time and say, are we making an impact, right? What's actually happening as a result of all that? The initial part of this is for us to give you this space, which we've done, to hear from you and the things that you need in order to get to the goals that we've set. So listen out for us. We'll be communicating with you. We have a team that will be meeting those that are still here Monday, and we'll start reaching out to make sure that we can get the ball going.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Have a great fall break.
Thank you. I hope you get some time off as well.